Through prayer and just like prophetic words of knowledge, I found out that I believe it was my dad that molested me from the age of about 3 to 5. Fortunately, I don't have any recollection of it. It's just more of a knowing. But most certainly, my second cousin did violate me, did molest me. My parents and some other couples would go to my dad's cousin's house, which would have been my second cousin's, and all the adults would get together and play poker. All the kids would run off to the next room and go play, of course, like a lot of families do. But this particular cousin of mine, every single weekend, every Saturday, as soon as the kids ran off to the room, he would call me into the bathroom and would molest me every weekend. And I want to say it went on for at least a couple of years. I was probably about 5 or 6. Went on for at least a couple of years. And there's some memories that I clearly remember. I never told anyone at all. I just remember one day running out from the bathroom and showing the adults that I was bleeding down there. And my memory of what they said it was is that I fell off a stool. That was it. And it wasn't until about maybe 7, 8 years ago that I was taking a very deep inner healing class at my church called Making Peace with Your Past, that I started remembering the abuse. And a couple of years ago, I was going through therapy and I finally decided to break my silence. And I was mentioning it to my mom. And I think she was just in such horrific disbelief that something like this could happen to one of her daughters, that she said, I just find that really hard to believe. And that just really shut me down, because as an adult, I was this was about 2 years ago, 44 years old, finally speaking out, and hearing my mom say, I just find that really hard to believe. I realized that my reaction, it sort of manifested as a little girl, and I didn't want to talk about it any longer. And we were living together at the time, my mom and I, and I walked off, and she wanted to continue talking to me, and I laid over on my bed, and she wanted to say something, and all of a sudden the little girl's voice came out and said, "Go away," like a little girl. And I thought to myself, what is that? What is going on here? So part of the abuse of with the warlock, he created an altar, a 3-year-old little girl. And so when he was mad at Jessica, he would summons the little girl to come out, the little baby girl to come out. And so then I would have to act like the little girl and talk like the little girl. And so there was definitely some dividedness, I guess you can say, disassociation going on also, that I've had to get a lot of healing, a lot of inner healing, and a lot of healing from. But it's certainly a history, a pattern of abuse in my life, and also a lot of healing as well. Sadly, I'm really good at hiding behind a mask. My mom would always say, because I finally did tell her also about the abuse, and she says, I never knew. You were always smiling, you were always laughing, and I just hid behind a mask. I was so good about making sure no one knew what was going on. No one knew what I was feeling, other than I was happy and everything was great. But the moment I would get in my car and alone with my thoughts, I would just sob. I would weep and weep until my face was completely swollen. Then I would wait until the swelling went down, my eyes weren't red anymore, and then I would go home. I believe it was just a defense mechanism, just a protecting, just not wanting to show my feelings to anyone. Now, if I am going through something, it's just so evident, so apparent. My friends know right away if I'm going through something. I do have a history of depression. I mean, gosh, I guess who wouldn't have some kind of chemical imbalance after all that? And so that I do take medication for the depression, as well as therapy. But every now and then, the feelings still come up, and my friends will know, they'll catch it right away. They'll pick up on it, so they'll start praying for me, or I'll reach out for prayer. But it is something that I have to, at times, often contend with, is to keep my peace, to keep my sanity. During this time, I did, for a very, very long time, contend heavily with thoughts of suicide. When I was 17, I did try to commit suicide by overdosing, and again, because of a boy. And it all stems back to wanting to be loved so bad that you're just willing to take anything, any kind of affection or love from someone of the opposite sex, just to feel that love and affirmation that I never received from my dad. And I did finally, growing up also, my dad was very verbally abusive, not really physically abusive, extremely verbally abusive, and different to me than my other two sisters. I was a middle child, and still am. And he, for some reason, just would treat me like if I was a stepchild. And I always wanted that love, that affirmation. I always wanted to be daddy's little girl. And through my inner healing, I was able to forgive him. He did pass away 5 years ago. And I told him I loved him more times on his deathbed than I did probably my whole life. Coming from a dysfunctional family, there's certain things that are, certain feelings and emotions that are okay, and others that are not. And it's sort of like an unspoken rule. So rage and anger were just something common, and you just didn't express your feelings. It just didn't happen. And I think that's why I kept the abuse from my family. And even to this day, like, the only one I'm close to right now is my mom. And if I'm going through something emotional, I'll just keep it to myself or tell my friends. But I just don't feel comfortable expressing it to my mom. And again, it's just the way we grew up, I guess. I did have friends. I'm sorry, when I was with the abusive guy, I didn't have any friends. I had coworkers, and he did not allow me to have any friends. I was pretty much estranged from the family as well. I would only go home to take a shower, or on the weekends to shower, and then back to work and then his house. But I wasn't allowed to go to any family functions. I became estranged from the family. And so I didn't have any friends. And I remember how great it felt when I finally got away and I was having dinner with girlfriends for the first time. And I felt so free. I couldn't believe I was having dinner with friends and I didn't have to check in or make up a story. But that went on for an entire 7 years of just like living like a hermit. And I'm so outgoing, and I'm such a people person, and to have to live like a hermit in this man's room, because he wouldn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want anyone looking at me. He wouldn't want anybody talking to me. If we did go somewhere, I'd have to wear his clothes, so it would be very baggy. But yeah, I didn't really have any friends. Now I have a great network of friends, but then I didn't. The only friends I had, really, again, I became estranged because I was visiting him every weekend. So I did make prison friends, other prison wives, prison girlfriends. And it was, our conversations were all about, are they on lockdown? You know, what can we wear? Who's driving with who? The stuff that I've never known anybody in jail, let alone prison. I grew up very sheltered. It was just a very new life for me, but it became my life for 7 years. It became my life, and when he left me a few weeks before he got out, 6 weeks before he got out of prison, he sent me a Dear John letter asking for a divorce after I had been there all these years, and I was devastated, and I had to literally start looking for friends again and start developing, and fortunately I was able to finally connect with friends at church, but I just didn't have any friends because my world revolved around him, and then the previous relationship, I just didn't have a choice, or didn't feel like I had a choice. That's all the time I have for now. Next time I'll tell you the rest of my story.